Today, I am thrilled to be joined by Michael Phelan from Go-to-Market Pros. He's the founder and principal with Go-to-Market Pros. Michael, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, Joe.
So let's just kick off to talk a little bit about what it is that Go-to-Market Pros is and what you do.
Yeah, and I spent the first half of my career in sales and marketing roles at companies like Reebok and Staples, and then I went to a lot of high-tech companies, SaaS-based companies that were launching products. And about 10 years ago, I formed Go-to-Market Pros, and the reason why was that I wanted to bring together all of the different parts of sales and marketing to come up with a more effective way to go to strategy, a more practical way to go to market. So I help companies both in the U.S. Ramp revenue and come into the U.S. market from abroad. I also help companies really understand their customers in depth, either through one-on-one discovery meetings and interviews or through best practices panels.
Excellent. And I think that teases up precisely for why we were so excited to speak with you today is some of the research you've done recently around commercial real estate use and technology. So you recently completed a research study into commercial real estate technology. And so I want to talk a little bit about what you found there and the process. So let's just start with what you were seeking to answer with that research.
Yeah, so as QuickBase approached me, they really wanted to understand how commercial real estate professionals use technology in their work. So it could be a director of real estate, could be a director of construction, could be a director of facilities that are managing large operations. So it could be a Target, or it could be a Citibank, or it could be a gym, but they have a lot of different operations and outlets across the U.S. market. And so there's a lot of complexity to managing their operation. They really wanted to understand how professionals in these industries use technology, what works well, what is broken, what needs to be fixed, and what would be their ideal solution.
Excellent. So how did you go about conducting this research?
So the first thing we did working with the QuickBase team was really to define the ICP, which is the ideal customer persona. So who is it that we want to talk to? What are their titles? And then who are the companies that we want to talk to that would be needing such technology? So we built out an ICP. We built out a specific list of companies. And then I began the reach out as a director of research to invite them into the study. And if they get to participate in the study, they also get to see the results as well. So they get to see what they said and how that matches up with the peers. And they're very interested in hearing what people just like themselves were saying, and they really want to be in an environment that's sharing information across people just like themselves at similar companies in the U.S.
So I've read the research, the takeaways. I think it's really, really interesting. Something that I want to make sure that we level set here, though, when you're talking about that ICP. For anybody that's not in real estate, what are some of the things that these people are handling?
So they'll handle everything from new store bills or new branch bills. So if you take somebody like a Walmart or a Target or a Best Buy, when they're building a new store, it's a really significant investment. So everything from really sophisticated geo and psychographic and demographic analysis of where's the best place to put that store. So they use all kinds of technology around that. Then obviously they're going to decide, on the financial side, where are they going to build it? Is it going to be with a set of other retailers? Interestingly enough, many retailers only want to be with certain retailers and will not be with other retailers. So eventually they kind of, and then there's all the financial side of that, the legal documents, if there's lease documents, if there's building involved, then there's all kinds of hiring of contractors and subcontractors, everything from the general contractor to store design folks to managing the layout of the store. It's a really big deal. And there's a lot of pressure on that, a lot of cost involved, and a lot of forecasting of costs, a lot of management of vendors. So technology is really critical for that. The other side of it is folks that are managing existing footprints of, say, stores or banks or gyms. Obviously, they're upgrading it. They're managing everything to do with the building. They're managing HVAC. They're managing maintenance. They're managing equipment. They're managing staff. And then there's the people that are involved in the facilities management itself. Everything from interior and exterior and fixing parking lots and everything around access control and everything that a facilities guy will do. So all of these people really, really need very advanced technology that's fully up to date to do their jobs.
Excellent. So that teases up well then to talk about what you found out. So you just touched on it a little bit, but what are they using technology for day to day?
Yeah, so I was interviewing companies like, just to give an example, like Orvis, Wegmans, Walgreens, Alaska Airlines, Michael's company, Guitar Center, United Supermarkets, Costco Coffee, American Eagle, Extra Space Storage. So that gives an example of the type of companies that I was interviewing. And one of the key findings is that, they tend to buy software on a department level basis. So they'll buy, for example, an estimating software, and that will work well for the team that's doing the estimating. But many other people need to pull that data across the company, and they don't have access to it, or they have to go through a person to get it. And so these systems sit in siloed departments, and they don't share data well across other departments. And then when they look to buy software, IT will recommend something like a SharePoint or one of these file storage systems. And while it's good to have centrality of file storage, there's a very sophisticated workflow that's needed in many cases. So they need something that can be customized to their workflow, that will be customized across departments, and that will give them what I call the single source of truth, which is kind of, which document do I trust is the final one, which document do I trust is the approved one, and which document do I have to dig into and change. I need to understand a lot about it. So they really struggle and spend a huge amount of time on administration, on tracking down documents, on tracking down which versions, on reaching out to other departments. And everything is kind of siloed and individually managed as well as purchased. So the way they're going about kind of buying software is really not the way they need to think about it. And we'll probably get to that a little bit later in the interview.
No, that's a great kind of jumping into exactly how this is working. We don't exclusively talk about real estate. We have a lot of other thought leaders that we speak to about technology and how they're using it. I'm wondering if and it sounds like the answer to this is no, but I'm wondering what platforms are they relying on? I think of when we hear about marketing and sales, everybody's using Salesforce. It's kind of the spot that everybody's going. We had a thought leader a few weeks ago talking about construction, and Procore comes up constantly as kind of being like the big platform that everybody's using in construction. Is there something like that in real estate right now?
Yeah, there is a lot. I saw a lot of utilization of a product called BIM 360. You mentioned Procore. I definitely came across that. Timberland Sage, Bluebeam, ProTrack, Autodesk. And then you see some of the big ones like Oracle in there and Microsoft BI in there, Google Suite in there, Smartsheets. Definitely came across QuickBase with some customers as well, Salesforce. So there's a wide variety of what I would say broad-based technology like an Oracle or Salesforce, and then very narrow products that are either some form of project management software, some form of budgeting software, some form of estimating software. And the narrow niche products definitely have their place and need to be there. It's just that they can't be siloed and non-accessible, and the information has to be pulled accurately into other places where it will get utilized.
Sure. So what would you say then, and you've been touching on this a little bit, so what's working right now with the way that real estate functions are using technology?
Yeah, despite having technology challenges, they do get it done, and they do build these stores. And you think about the complexity of building a store, or the complexity of managing a large retail operation. It is a lot. And I would say one of the reasons why they get things done is, when I look at and interview the real estate directors, the vice presidents, these are relatively senior people. They've been around for a long time. They're very, very seasoned. And they know how to augment technology deficits or inefficiencies. And sometimes when I ask them, how do you know what the single source of truth actually is? They say, it's me. And that's why they have such tenure, and that's why the companies really keep them and look after them, because they really do help to pull all this stuff together. So I would say technology is working well at an individual level in some departments to do very specific things like estimating and project management. I would say across the board for real estate professionals, they have said that some of the products are getting more mobile friendly, which is good for them because they're really on the road a lot. They go out to stores, they do inspections, they meet with a lot of managers who they're leasing from. Some of the stores are leased, so they're meeting with the property owners. They're going to shows and conventions as well, and so they definitely like the fact that everything can be on mobile. And they do want the mobile experience to be reflective of the desktop experience or the on-site experience, but they do want full access, which they don't have now. So on a mobile device, it might give you a preview of a document or a summary of a document. But if you really need to dig deep in and pull me up that lease, if you're talking to a landlord and you're on site and you want to look at a clause, there's a violation going on, you want to really get to that document during the conversation. So while they do appreciate that products like QuickBase are more modern UI and UX, they want that to be as friendly and as usable on the mobile device as well.
Sure. What about beyond is there anything beyond the connectivity between those systems that's really, really broken? Because I know you've touched on that a couple of times. I mean, we can expand on that a little more too, if you'd like.
Yeah, I would say purchasing, knowing what to purchase is really broken. So in many cases, they're a little bit gun shy on, on what to buy. They didn't grow up with software. They use software in their jobs. They recognize the importance of it. So in terms of speccing out something that is for a company at a broad level and across all departments, they struggle with how to do that and what that should be. And in the past, they'll admit that maybe an RFP wasn't written the right way. Maybe it didn't have all the details required. And they haven't really got from the vendors what they've wanted. And they go to IT, and IT will provide a very broad-based solution that's not always customizable for workflow. It's not always customizable within each department and for every department. So an IT tends to be incredibly busy at retail. If you look at their operations, and IT oftentimes goes into I used to work at Staples and Reebok, and we would go into code freeze, before the holiday season. And when code freeze happens, what it means is that no development can be done on new projects. So everything's put in freeze for many months as they go into the holiday season and they go into Thanksgiving and Christmas and everything else around that. It becomes so important for them that you can get nothing done. So I think the reality is these people need to be able to either customize software themselves locally, or have a company with either customer service or professional services, or have one of their channel partners, help to get it set up. And once it gets set up, they can run it. But they just need to figure out that there is a better play, and that the past is really not indicative of the future. So in other words, their struggles with identifying technology is tough, but if they come at it from a different perspective and if they define a different product and they look at a different technology, I think there are technologies out there, such as low-code, no-code products that actually can meet their needs and will integrate across systems and will pull data from different departments. One of them said to me, it takes me 10 hours to prepare for the executive real estate monthly meeting. And everybody's on that, and it's about the new store bills, and it's highly visible, and it's a lot of money, multi-millions and millions of dollars. So 10 hours is a lot of time for a senior person to have to dig through all these different departments and data sources to get information. And if a company could help to relieve that burden, they would love you for life.
Sure, I'm sure. I'm also interested. So, obviously we are coming from the technology space, and no code, low code is a second language to folks like you and I. How are these folks describing what their ideal situation looks like, what their ideal solution looks like?
Yeah, it's interesting. They don't necessarily describe it in terms of technology. I think they describe it in terms of what I would call jobs to be done, which is a great methodology to think about. So jobs to be done is I need to prepare for the monthly real estate committee meeting. I'm going to present a proposal to go ahead with a new store build. I'm going to present a proposal. So the job to be done is A, I need to prepare for that, and B, I need to present it. And I can't go into that meeting with someone challenging my numbers, saying that's not accurate, or I don't really want to be sent back to the drawing board to redo everything. I have all these vendors waiting. And at the same time, the cost of materials are skyrocketing, and supply of materials is very limited. So they do need to move fast. So I think they define it in terms of the jobs to be done. So jobs to be done would be, I need to find a new location for the store. I need to get my budget approved for the store build. I need to manage a set of store upgrades and remodels. So that's how they define it. They don't really care what the technology is or how it works, as long as it's A, easy for them to use, B, it gets them the right integrated data, and C, it has some credibility in the organization. When they say, I pull the data from this platform, people will say, well, that's a pretty good platform. It's pretty accurate. It's robust. So I think that's the kind of thing they think about. They probably don't know the term no code, low code. And they probably don't understand that software can be customized for their workflow. And can be customized across departments and can be summarized, and data can be pulled from one to the other. So I think people have to say, this is the job to be done. This is how it will work. By the way, here's the technology that will be used. But that's kind of definitely the third piece of importance to them.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So let's get into, what our solution is here, what the recommendations that you have coming out of the study to make real estate businesses operate more smoothly.
Yeah, so I think the first thing is they have to think about a software solution that will support multiple departments. So they have to get involved. If you're in the estimating group or the construction group or the facilities group or the real estate group, you have to get these people together and say, what do we need to do as a group? And there may be some more vertical depth in some groups and so forth. So you have to kind of buy across the board, and you have to buy something that not only can solve each department needs, but can integrate data across departments. So we need something that's going to be able to sync and pull data from whatever historical systems they have. And the reporting is very, very important. And this is what some software companies miss. They have to have a report or a dashboard that is has all the data, is quite visual, ideally has a click and drill down functionality. So when they're presenting this data and an executive says, what's behind that, they can click on it and look at the data behind that, because that gives them a lot of credibility. So something that will a pull the data, but also help them prepare to present the data and analyze and use the data in a visual way, so it's helpful to them in their jobs. So I think getting the RFP structured correctly, getting the different departments and to agree, getting IT to support that, takes some effort. So it does require some cross-functional work. And that can be done because many of these departments struggle with this. And if we really could deliver that solution, they'd all be happy. But they have to do a little bit of work to define what they need. And they might need help from somebody that's done that before with someone else in their industry to say, hey, here's what we did for this company. Here's the process we did to get the RFP done, and so forth and so on. So I think getting the RFP right is the key. And then when they get the RFP right, then get it to the right set of vendors. Don't send it to, Microsoft. Don't send it to a very generic broad base. Send it to somebody that really cares about the workflow, that really cares about the output they want to deliver and the jobs to be done. So you got to find the right vendor who's going to partner up with you over the long term and cares as much about your presentation to the real estate committee as you do. And so that partnering is so critical, and ongoing partnering, not just in terms of the initial sale, but really strong customer service and strong professional support, I believe, should be part of the RFP. And a lot of times they don't put that into the RFP. The other thing is they tend to buy, because they're retailers, they tend to be very sensitive to cost. So sometimes they have a better solution and they don't buy it. And it infuriates the department, because the purchasing team goes, we're buying the cheapest thing possible. Or sometimes they have an alternative relationship with another software vendor where they find a vendor that's suitable to them, but they get told, oh, this other vendor can do this as well. So make sure that the decision that comes out of the process and their recommendation of the best vendor is the one going to be hired. And it's worth the money to do it, because there's so much involved and there's so much waste. So they also, I would say, need help in terms of the ROI side of things. Like, how do they justify all of the costs and efficiency savings? It's not just about the licensing cost of the software. It's about, how much better you can get at your job, how much faster you can move, how you can take advantage of, offers you have in the market. So there's a lot of softer efficiencies that need to be folded into the analysis so that you can justify the investment.
That's tremendous insight, tremendous recommendations. And is there anybody that, when you're going through this research, anyone particular interview that sticks out to you that they really seem to have it figured out, or they had a system that they were particularly proud of when you were going through this?
Yeah. So John Lewis, who's they're famous for their advertising, and they're a UK retailer. They were very sophisticated, and their approach was, there really is no vendor out there that can give us exactly what we want off the shelf. And I think that's true. There's no prepackaged solution. So they're constantly looking for a prepackaged solution that gives them what they want, and it doesn't exist. So he says, you know what, I'm going to find a vendor that has the capability to build the product I want for me. And I'm going to help that vendor design that product into my organization. So custom workflow, custom data, custom reporting, custom dashboards, custom integration. And I'm going to work with that vendor. And I expect the vendor is going to give me a reasonable deal, because I am actually now going to be part of their development organization. And they've been doing that very successfully. And what that vendor has found is, when they come out the other end, they have such a great product to bring to all of the retailers in the UK. So vendors that realize it's really by co-partnering, by co-development. And so he's done that very successfully. He's also very focused on, making the software very usable. He's also focused on, adoption of the software, because he said, if we bring in the software and only I use it, it's no good. I need everybody in every department to use it and feel comfortable with it. So he's very much into UI and UX, and he's very much into virtual reality and creating, before they create the store, that you could actually do a walkthrough of the store, what it feels like to shop there, what it feels like to be there, and that you can move stuff around and change stuff. So he's very much into creating, a three-dimensional virtual reality that's customizable, so that they can get that customer experience to be just perfect. So there are some that are kind of way ahead, but they have approached it on the basis of, find a vendor that has the core capabilities, and really work with them on a collaborative basis. and they get the fact that they have to participate as much as the vendor has. And some vendors are open to that, and some vendors say, great idea, we'll put it on the roadmap and we'll get back to you in 2 years. So and they find that he's found that he's much better off working with the mid-level vendors. He finds that when you go to the top 50 or top 100, or when you're with somebody that has no presence in the local market, it's very hard. So he very carefully picks the vendor, not as much based on the technology, but based on the way they operate, the way they interact, and their level of partnership and co-development. As he said, anybody can do anything. It's the attitude, it's the mentality, it's the partnership, it's the caring about the jobs to be done that really drives my decision. So he's way ahead of everybody, I would say, based on that.
That's brilliant. Thanks for sharing that, Michael. That brings me to the end of my questions about the study. I really, really appreciate your time talking about this today, your time on the research, and your willingness to share it with us. It's I think super valuable for everybody in the real estate space, as well as on the tech side, determining what we really value and what retailers should be valuing when they're going into this process. So I got a couple more questions for you. We always like this, a little bit of a quick base tradition. When anybody new joins the marketing organization, we have a couple of questions that we ask. And the first is, it's 3 questions: your first car, your first concert, and your first job. So you can take those in any order.
Yeah, I'm thinking the first car. I wonder, was it a Ford or whatever? But I remember it had such bad suspensions, and the Irish roads at that time. I grew up in Dublin, Ireland, and the Irish roads had tons of potholes, and you felt like you were hitting the potholes. Everything, this thing went up and down, and it got us around, but it wasn't necessarily a comfy ride. What was the second question?
First job and first concert.
First job. Well, first job was working in a warehouse, and my family managed sales and distribution for Polaroid and Pentax and Renault and a series of brands in Ireland. So I'd work in the warehouse, and I would drive the van, and I remember the first week getting a little envelope with some cash in it, and it was like the greatest thing ever. This is before direct deposit, but getting actually some cash on a Thursday was pretty good. And the first concert was probably Thin Lizzy. And I don't know if you know the group Thin Lizzy. And ironically, U2 was an opening act for them, and was only known by a few people. And since that, I've become a big U2 fan, but I couldn't wait for U2 to leave the stage. I thought they were terrible because I couldn't wait for Thin Lizzy to come on. Little did I know that, U2 would become like one of the biggest rock bands in the world.
I was going to say, you look back historically, that's quite a flip there. Yeah, wild. Well, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Michael. So the last thing that I always like to ask is give you the opportunity to tell people where they can keep up with your work or find you with your social handles or just anywhere online.
Yeah, so I have my company is Go to Market Pros. It's GOTO Market MARKET Pros PROS, and I'm also under LinkedIn. I have about 30,000 followers on LinkedIn, and I publish a lot of content. I also do best practices panels every 2 weeks for sales and marketing execs to find out about what the best way of engaging with their customers and prospects is, and how prospects and customers want to hear from companies and learn from companies.
Excellent. So, Michael, I want to thank you again for joining me. Michael Phelan from Go to Market Pros. Take care.
Thanks so much, Joe.